Good morning. My name is Paula Almiron. I'm the Partnership and Funding Manager at EIT Food Northwest. I would like to introduce you to Amy Fee. She is our intern in partnership and also in nutrition. She holds a master in sports and exercise nutrition from the University of Ulster. Today we are going to continue with our EIT Food Northwest Startups Discovery Series. So we're going to start today with our agenda. We will be delivering the session in 4 stages. We are going to start with an introduction to EIT Food Northwest and also to the Startups Discovery Series. And after that, we are going to have the presentations of Valentin Belser from Delicious Data and also from Franzisca Gaerenmann from NEMIS Technologies. After that, we are going to have some space for some final remarks, but feel free to ask any questions as we go along. Okay. So EIT Food is the largest and most dynamic food innovation community. We focus on innovation to build a food system that produces healthy and sustainable food for all. We are supported by EIT, which stands for the European Institute of Innovation and Technology. We concentrate on 3 main areas. We invest in projects. We invest also in organizations and entrepreneurs that share our goals. We unlock innovation potential in businesses and universities, and we help agri-food startups to bring new technologies and products to market. We work in 5 regional offices, as you can see, and as the Northwest region is based in the UK, but we also work for Iceland and Ireland. So we work on 3 missions. The first one is healthier lives through food. The second one is a net zero food system. And then we have the one that is the theme of today's session, that is a fully transparent, fair, and resilient food system. Okay. We work in 4 pillars: education, innovation, entrepreneurship, and public engagement. And in each of these pillars, we have programs, calls, and activities that are targeted to experts, but also for the general public in some cases. EIT Food Northwest has a diverse network of partners, including key industry players, agri-food startups, research centers, and universities from our region. And together with the wider EIT Food community, we are all working to deliver an innovative and entrepreneurial food sector. We have some upcoming events, so if you would like to continue, Amy?
Yeah, no worries. So we're pleased that our Startup Discovery Series is going to be taking place into the new year. So we have, again, we're starting with healthier lives through food, a net zero food system, and a fully transparent, fair, and resilient food system in that order of events. So we have 6 confirmed for next year, and we're hoping to carry it on even further. Do you want to go to the next slide, just Paula?
Perfect.
Yeah, so we'd like to welcome Delicious Data and NEMIS Technologies, who are today's startups that are going to be pitching. So just a brief introduction to Delicious Data, where it's a forecast solution that uses machine learning to combine historical data of catering businesses with additional external factors to calculate future sales figures. And Valentin is going to pitch his company, and then you can feel free to ask any questions and drop them in the chat as we go along. And then following this, we're going to have Franzisca, who's going to present NEMIS Technologies, who specialise in the development of simple, safe and on-site pathogen detection solutions across a wide range of applications in the food industry. And again, if you have any questions during this pitch, just drop them into the chat and we'll have a Q&A session after. Yeah, so if we just hand over to Valentin and Delicious Data.
Sure. Thanks very much for the quick introduction already. I will just share my screen with you. Just a second. So now you should be able to see the screen.
Yes, perfect.
Great. Yeah, thanks very much for having me today. I'm happy to be here on this virtual stage. Looking forward to the exchange. I try to keep the presentation short and also to have a room for questions and interactions with you. Quick update to my person or introduction to my person. My name is Valentin. I'm founder and managing director of Delicious Data. I'm 31 years old. I'm from Stuttgart, Germany, where I also had the idea for Delicious Data around 5 years ago during my graduate studies at the University of Stuttgart, and where I came across a big problem. Yeah? So I came late for lunch into the cafeteria, and I saw that there was plenty of fresh food cooked, ready to eat available, but only a few guests to eat, and figured out that day that all of it had to be thrown at the end of the day. And that was really shocking for me. And I had a look before food waste was a complete unknown topic, basically. I had to look at the global numbers, the figures. I'm pretty sure you've all seen them. But I was really shocked to find out that 1/3 of all produced food globally is thrown away along the value chain. Yeah, all along from basically production until consumption. And it's also not such a big problem, but it's also a big main contributor to global carbon dioxide emissions, with around 8% of the global amount. So if we can reduce food waste, or if we can cut it by half, then also we cut 4% of the global CO2 emissions. So it's really big impact on that side as well. And third thing I found out as well, which motivated me to start Delicious Data, is that it's also a big business opportunity with around $2.6 trillion if you sum up all these stages in the value chain, and this also a main driver later on to build a successful company around it and to scale the impact as well. So I had a look with my co-founder Jacob, where we can actually optimize it, where we see a big leverage to reduce this amount, and figured that a big problem we are having currently, and I think that also fits to the topic, the overall topic we have in our today's session, which is a transparent and also a sustainable food chain, is the problem of demand prediction. So we realized that everywhere where you have a handover from production to supplier to the consumers and the large consumers, you always need to predict how much of food you actually need to distribute or to sell at a certain time in the future. And we saw the opportunity there, especially now focusing at the large chain companies in the food sector, such as bakery chains, quick service restaurant chains, food retailers, and catering and company canteen segment, where also the idea was initially born. Because all of those big companies, they have the big challenge on the one hand to come up with an accurate forecast for the next days and also weeks, so that they have enough on stock to produce and sell, and also to come up with the right production amount at the day in the store when they actually prepare the perishable food. And this is where Delicious Data focuses on. So we are basically helping to master our clients' ordering and production planning, so that they, on the one hand, can avoid out of stock situations and revenue losses, and on the other, not to throw away too much at the end of the day. So most often our clients, they go rather on the safe side and have more on stock or produce more than they actually need to sell, so that they don't run into this problem of out of stock. And we help to manage this more precisely. And not only that, we also with that help to optimize other operational challenges they have in the business. I will dive deeper into that later on in a second. Also, if you have any questions, just feel free to ask them right away and reach out. Else, also at the end of the presentation possible. Yeah, so describe to the problem we are having and the motivation behind the delicious data. So what do we actually do? How does it look like? I am presenting you here the three main features we are currently offering to our clients. On one hand, it's the order engine. So we call it. That's basically a machine learning pipeline that helps to predict future demand for the next days and weeks so that they can optimize the order quantities. Second main feature is our task engine that goes a step further and basically translates the forecast into smart recommendations for the amount of perishable food they should produce in the store at the day. I will explain you later on and make it more graphical or more visual how that actually works. And then the third main feature is our analytics dashboard that basically enables our clients to get a better understanding of the relevant KPIs in their business, as well as savings in food waste and savings in costs or revenue increases when they're working together with us. Two KPIs I want to highlight to show you that it's very effective, our solution. So we can reduce food waste by up to 40% when our clients use the solution to optimize their processes. We're aiming even higher. We believe it's 50% and more is very possible on the long run. And also it's economically very attractive to partner up with us because we can also increase the bottom line. And nowadays, during times of inflation, to not to have the necessity to increase the sales prices and by reducing costs. So what is behind it? How does it work? You can basically, it's a very rough scheme because looking into the architecture of the algorithm gets quite complex at some point. But here on a high level, the overview how it works, you can imagine we are basically a layer that connects or goes on top of the point of sales and ERP solutions our clients already have in place. So we are basically a third a software category besides those two systems, and we are making interfaces. We are integrating with those solutions, and we are basically transmitting or pulling all the transactional data from those systems, such as order quantities from the past and the menu plans for the future, as well as transactional sales data. And we take this data, transfer it to our cloud solution, where we enrich it with other factors such as weather, calendaric events such as holidays, and so on. Basically everything that influences future customer demand. And then we train our artificial intelligence to learn from the history what's going to happen in the future. So we are basically by that are able to generate demand forecasts to optimize the ordering, as well as demand forecasts throughout the day to optimize the production plan in each store. Want to give you a better understanding of the store optimization with our task engine, because that's something that makes us unique in the market so far. Solutions mainly focus on optimizing order quantities, order amounts, and we figured out in the conversations with our clients and potential future partners that it is very important to have a good order forecast to optimize the order quantities, the order volume. But not only that, often what happens at each store at the day is really decisive for the amount of food waste I actually have, because you can have a perfect you can have the perfect amount in stock, but if you make the wrong production decision in the day, you might end up in an out of stock situation, revenue loss, or what is worse, at the end of the day, have produced too much that has to be thrown away. And we are basically with this solution focusing on optimizing this production tasks. To give you a practical example, you can imagine a bakery store or a bake-off station in a grocery supermarket, where you have an oven and where you can basically produce throughout the day continuously amount of freshly baked goods or snack items. Yeah, something that you can prepare in small time and finish it right before you sell it. So basically what we are doing is we are replacing their paper-based systems or the gut feeling of the people who are producing and selling the fresh food, and install a tablet solution there where we give or translate our forecasts directly into smart production items. So let's say bake now 20 pretzels because you will sell them in the next hour, or please now do 10 vegan salami baguettes, for example, because you will most likely sell them in the next hour, so that they can produce it before they will actually sell it, and then check it off in our solution so that we know the amount that is still in stock. And when the amount, because of the connection with the point of sale system, we know when this item is sold, and after it falls below a minimum threshold, we can then trigger another production task so that we always ensure that they have the right amount available throughout the day. And at the end of the day, not too much. Yeah? So this is where this solution really brings a lot of value in. And it's also looking at our vision. So we are currently focusing on extending this feature and also add other operational tasks that are non-food related to streamline all the store operations for our clients there. And it's very effective. So a quick, some KPI. I'm very proud of. So far, we were able to save more than 820,000 meals since we launched our solution in early 2019 with our clients. And we're also awarded for the German Federal Award Against Food Waste in 2020, awarded by the Ministry of Food in Germany. And very proud that that also directly translate into more than 1,000 tons of CO2 equivalent emissions that we were able to save with our clients. And here you can also see a selection where we are currently active. So in the company catering segment, as well as in the segment of large bakery chains, and I'm now looking more closer also into the food retail sector. Also would be happy to get in contact with you in case that would be attractive, or you have some interesting context there. This is where we are heading with Delicious Data. Quick overview of the market. So initially, I already have shown you that the market is quite big for the solution, and translating it into addressable market with our solution in Europe and North America, it's around 4 billion euros in recurring SaaS revenue, focusing on chain companies with a yearly revenue of more than 10 million at the moment, because there we really see the potential of also quickly scaling up the solution. Later on in the future, could be also possible that we extend and also offer our solution to smaller independent individual restaurant, bakery, or retail food retailers. Who's behind it? Beside myself, Jakob. I founded the company together with him during our university time. He basically brings in all this machine learning know-how. He's the mind behind the algorithm. And since a bit longer than a year now, Markus also joined us to lead us or expand our sales team. And we have currently a team of more than 20. We are based in Munich, and we are looking forward to expand significantly in the next year. We just recently closed our Series A financing round. Here you can see a selection of the investors who are backing us, joining us on our mission. So we are looking to increase the size of the team significantly, that we can also grow further nationally as well as internationally. And looking forward to all sorts of partnerships. So if you see any potential for mutual cooperation anyway, yeah, would be happy to get in contact with you. Yeah, and yeah, by that, my presentation is finished. Thank you very much for your attention, and I'm looking forward to your questions.
Yeah, so Kwame has asked, is there a deeper story behind your interest in food waste? Were you impacted by a course at university or news stories that focused on poverty or hunger? Or has your interest in food waste developed as you became more interested in becoming more involved in a global citizen?
Yeah, okay, that's a good question. To be completely honest, I had almost no awareness of the problem until that day in the university cafeteria. So this was for me like a very shocking moment. I was like, what happens with all this food? Yeah, where does it end up? Will it be handed over to the food bank, or will it be redistributed, or will be sold for a cheaper price? And I was really shocked to figure out it had to be thrown away. And then we have a very high number still today in food waste globally. And yeah, so since that day, I was driven to find a solution and to help to reduce that amount. Yeah, that was basically like from my aerospace engineering studies. Yeah, were no courses or anything related to that. So I more or less by seeing the problem, I yeah, got this motivation to solve it.
No worries. Gorgeous has asked, what is the cost of your software for your clients?
Okay, that depends on the use case. So the features you're using, and also the type of facility it is. So it's oriented in on the value potential we are enabling our clients to achieve with, and yeah, that depends on how much basically a client can save, and also how much revenue we can generate with them. We are typically aiming for 20% of the value we create in a software as a service license fee. So 4 times the amount that in value is basically generated for our clients than he actually pays for. And I'll give you an example in numbers. For bakeries, that's around 100 euros per month in facility.
There's nothing else in the chat. If anybody else has a question, if they want to drop it in or shout away.
Just one small question. So, Valentin, which are the barriers or the counter arguments that you receive from your prospective clients?
Okay, counter arguments. I mean, I think initially when we launched it, it was completely new for our clients, and also artificial intelligence was something new. They were not used to. There was only little understanding of it. So we had to convince them about using the solution in the first place. And now I would say, since we are more established in the market, and also deciders know more about the potential of automation, digitization, and especially artificial intelligence, the more open they are right now. So yeah, and also looking right now at the dynamics, the market dynamics with inflation, there's yeah, it's quite obvious that solutions to streamline production, help to come up with better planning numbers to reduce cost, is very necessary.
Thank you. So would you say that they would use your software to reduce costs rather than for, let's say, environmental concerns?
It depends on the type of customer. Some of the customers, they're reaching out to us, especially because they want to reduce food waste, because they have looking, for example, as at big corporate companies who are also our clients, like Bayer or Ergo Insurance, or large automotive companies who operate their own canteens. They have sustainability goals to reduce CO2 by a certain time in the future, and they actively need solutions to reduce CO2 or to reduce food waste, and also to report that to the stakeholders. So initially, when we started, it was more prospects were more interested in the cost saving aspect of the solution, and now that has changed, and we experience a big demand, also because we help to reduce waste and CO2.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah, have you thought of collecting the waste and using it for the production of hydrogen? You can organize a collection service.
Oh, that's a good idea. No, not yet, but we could have a look into that. Yeah. I mean, or at least give clients the idea through our solution, because with tracking the amount of waste, they can also see how much it is, and how much potential they have maybe for using the waste for energy production or anything like that.
No worries. Has anybody anything else they would like to ask before we hand over to Val or Franzisca? No. Well,
Okay.
Thank you so much, Valentin.
Thank you very much. And yeah, you just feel free to reach out in case there are any further questions later on. Thanks.
No problem. And we'll now hand over to Franzisca on NEMIS Technologies, if that's okay.
Yes, that's more than okay. Thank you so much. I'll quickly share my screen. Can you guys see that? Perfect. Okay. Well, thank you also from my side for the opportunity. I will say in advance, I have unfortunately caught a cold, so I apologize for any potential sniffles that you might hear during the presentation. NEMIS Technologies. I'm Franzisca Gaerenmann. I am the head of sales and marketing. I actually joined NEMIS in 2018 as the first employee. Interestingly enough, I think I'm one of the few people that doesn't have a science background. I'm a classical attitude hire that just absolutely got inspired by the purpose and the vision of the company. And I've been with NEMIS ever since. NEMIS in of itself has a bit of a different founding story, especially because we're based in Zurich. There are a lot of startups that are coming out of ETH. For us, it was a bit different because the actual technology was developed in Tel Aviv. The university there actually developed those molecules that I'll talk about in a bit, and secured the patents, which were then acquired by a Swiss chemical producer, Biosint. And because the CEO and founder of Biosint actually saw huge potential in this technology, especially since it's a platform technology, they decided to actually found NEMIS and look for a management team that would then kind of really tap into that potential and bring the solution or a solution to the market. Overall, the challenge that NEMIS is addressing was pathogenic or is pathogenic bacteria. Initially, there was a bit of a focus also on antimicrobial resistance. Right now, NEMIS is exclusively focusing on food safety. We have an IP, so we have the patents surrounding the AquaSpark technology that came from the University of Tel Aviv. And we actually already have 2 tests that are certified, so 2 products that are on the market, and we have a growing customer base in Europe. So in a nutshell, that is who NEMIS is. To kind of go a bit into food safety and what it is or why it is that we're very committed to tackling some of these challenges. It's a fact that 600 million people fall ill every year due to contaminated food. And it's one of these challenges that doesn't just affect third world countries, but it's something that also affects us in Europe. It affects every one of us. I'm sure many or most of you have had one or the other personal experience with some food that wasn't safe or that was potentially contaminated. It's also a fact that we have, like, especially in recent months, maybe you've seen some of the headlines, we're having very, very large product recalls. Europe has actually recorded a 13% increase in product recalls just in 2020. And the estimated amount of such a recall is between $7 and $8 million. For some bigger companies, that's something they can, deal with. For others, maybe more small to medium companies, that really is a strategy that not all will or can survive. We also took in food waste, and I think this kind of nicely aligns with what Valentin already said. What happens nowadays in terms of demand, if there's a product recall that actually, with all the media that we have today, makes headlines, is taken up by social media, this not only affects the product in question, but all the other competing products. So, for example, there was also a case where tomatoes were contaminated with salmonella, and then 32% of tomatoes actually went to the landfills simply due to this warning. So there's a bigger effect that comes with such a product recall. And then, of course, like I mentioned, there's antimicrobial resistances are coming up. It's not quite what NEMIS is focusing on at the moment. If we kind of zone in on the food industry and the reason on why we're having some of these product recalls, what we see is that the food industry is not only testing too little and in the wrong places, but also too late. So what's happening nowadays is that there's a very clear regulation on end product testing, which means that single digits of food samples from tons of food have to be analyzed, which is hardly representative if you actually look at the different risk profiles. What NEMIS is actually looking at is not the end product testing, especially since it's very clear what food producers need to do and how much they need to do, but environmental monitoring. So the idea is that if you, and there's also a European obligation to actually do environmental monitoring, which means that you actually put in place a risk management and a testing scheme for your food production. The idea behind that is a bit of a preventative approach, which means if you actually then sample the machines that you're using, the production floor, if you ensure that, for example, your employees wash their hands, all of these like little elements, they have a huge impact on whether your food or the end product actually then is safe or not. And so the idea, and this is very much what we're focusing on, is really to optimize and revolutionize environmental monitoring. At the moment, and this is maybe also where, because I was thinking about the title of this webinar, where FAIR also comes in. What does FAIR mean? We have a lot of small to medium sized food producers, like food in general. Like I think it will double, like our food need will double by 2050. Producing food is as old as mankind itself. And we have a lot of solutions for large food producers that have their own laboratory on site, that are willing to maybe invest into a PCR machine. But what about a lot of these small to medium-sized companies? Nowadays, most of them actually outsource their environmental monitoring. That means they take samples from, for example, their production machines. send them to an external service laboratory that actually costs quite a bit of money. And usually they wait 3 to 5 days till they get their results. And that's pretty much what we'd like to change by empowering them to do more testing and to do it directly on site. This is our first kit that we actually, or our first product that we launched in the European market. And it's pretty simple, and it has quite a similar principle like some of these Corona self-tests that I'm sure some of you might not fondly remember, but might recognize the swab that we're using. So the way this works is that you take a normal swab, which we actually were using flocked swabs from the medical industry, since they show improved sample absorption and release. That's a bit different from the traditional cotton swabs that are used commonly. Take a sample, especially we decided to go for swabs. We're also investing in the development of a sponge solution, but especially for Listeria monocytogenes, which is our first kind of target pathogen, it's the idea to kind of get in all these little crevices. So to dismantle the machine and with that swab to reach those hard to clean places that are oftentimes forgotten. The sample is taken and then transferred into a tube. Also similar like the Corona test, our tube's a bit bigger though, and contains an enrichment broth. So the sample is transferred, and then, and you can see this in the middle picture with the incubator, there's a little green cap. So the tube and the cap is actually something we invested quite a bit to design, since this is a biosafety cap. So you can unscrew it, transfer the sample, and then lock it by pressing down the cap. Once that cap is locked, it cannot be reopened, which is the only reason why on-site pathogen incubation or enrichment is possible. So you do not need a laboratory infrastructure to do this test, but it is vital that this tube, once the sample has been transferred, is locked. Both our Listeria monocytogenes and our Salmonella tests are actually incubated for 24 hours. Our limit of detection is 1 bacteria. So in case you actually manage to find and sample 1 bacterium, the idea is that within those 24 hours, they will actually grow and multiply. After 24 hours, what happens is that you can open the lid of the biosafety cap, which stores a tablet. That tablet, and I'll get to how this works in more detail in a second, but this tablet, when released, will actually react with, or in the case that your target bacteria is actually present. And when the molecule and the bacteria react together, there's a light emission, which we then measure with the instrument that you see on the right, which is a luminometer. This readout takes 10 seconds, after which you know whether you have a contamination on site or not. And so the value proposition and the idea behind the solution is to empower food producers. It's to have a solution that can be done by anyone in a very short amount of time, and that is safe to use, and also, of course, cost effective. The idea is to not charge as much, but to really provide something that is simple and affordable so that more testing can be done. And I really, really like this idea of empowerment, because it's taking back control. It's owning your quality processes. It's owning your risk management. It's deciding that one day there's a bigger risk and you sample more, and then you may also flexibly decrease that testing volume again. But it's this having a bit of a different relationship with risk management, with pathogen detection, and having the agility to actually choose appropriate measures. And then also, most importantly, after 24 hours, if you have a contamination, to then actually clean or do whatever you need to do to actually then manage this risk. Ideally, and I think that's the wonderful thing about environmental monitoring, you don't yet have a contamination or presumably a contamination with the end product, which means there's time you can react. So that's kind of what we developed in the last years. Now, the way this works, and there's two main components to our solution, is there's a 2 milliliter enrichment broth. The enrichment broth is specific to each target bacteria, which means it's not the same one for Salmonella and Listeria. The reason why that is because we use not only antibiotics, but also bacteriophages to specifically eliminate competing microflora. Now, what is that? Might be a bit technical, but what that means is that for a lot of these rapid tests, the microflora, all the other bacteria and food matrix that is in the production, it's like a competition. So if you have other bacteria that grow faster and that are stronger, even if you had, for example, Listeria monocytogenes, and in this case, this is actually true because Listeria is a very bad competitor, it may be that all the other bacteria that you've transferred would actually grow and Listeria would die. And so the idea of this enrichment broth is to eliminate everything that we do not want to detect by using antibiotics and by using bacteriophages. Bacteriophages are small little like viruses that can be tailored to actually specifically kill bacteria. This is quite a cutting edge technology. And our CEO and formerly CSO, Mario Hupfeld, has actually done his PhD on this, which is the reason why we could leverage this. So as you can see, the phages would kill the competing microflora. Listeria monocytogenes would grow in this enrichment broth and then actually react once the aquaspark with that molecule is released. Now, the molecule in of itself, and this is where we have the patents, this is a platform technology, which means you have a bacteria-specific part and a light-emitting part. Now, the bacteria-specific part can be tailored to, for example, a specific enzyme that only Listeria monocytogenes produces. And in our case, this is the PIPLC. And if that enzyme is present, because Listeria is present and alive, it will actually react, or in that sense, cleave the molecule. It becomes unstable, and then it will emit light, which is called chemiluminescence. And this chemiluminescence, and that's, I think, another key innovation of this technology, is that it is incredibly bright. So 1,000 times brighter than traditional fluorescence that we know. So it's the sensitivity of the aquaspark of this molecule and the specificity of the broth that together combined make our very unique rapid test. At the moment, and I've spoken about Listeria monocytogenes quite a bit, we launched our N-Light, Listeria monocytogenes, I think it was beginning of last year, and it is now commercially available in 9 European markets. We've just now launched our N-Light Salmonella Risk, which works exactly the same way, but as you can see, that's the purple tube. So it's also important for food producers that actually are testing for different pathogens to really differentiate between green, in that case, is Listeria monocytogenes with a specific molecule for that pathogen and a specific enrichment broth. Then we have Salmonella, and we're also about to launch our E. coli test. And then early of next year, we are also planning to launch an ATP test. And the idea is to create a platform, to create a portfolio where food producers can actually flexibly decide what they need and what they can do, all within the same 2 instruments, so 1 incubator and 1 luminometer. Now, a big milestone for us was the AOAC certification. That is an American certifying body that actually tested both our El Mono and our Salmonella tests. And so the certification, especially because in our field, and I would say this almost holds true for you know, anything, we have a lot of marketing, and with social media, with digital marketing, everyone's cheaper, better, faster, safer, whatnot. And so this for us was very, very important to show that it's not us, it's not just our claims, but it's our claims have, or like our product works according to our specifications, and this has been validated externally. Furthermore, maybe a bit about the competing or the competitive landscape. Many of you are probably now also familiar with PCR since our very recent pandemic. About our accessible market, for anyone who also like followed the recent pandemic, I think there's even more sensibility towards testing at the moment, and it's we see with growing food demand, with a heightened sensitivity, governments are investing quite a bit into something that is called whole genome sequencing, where that allows them actually, so if there's a patient in a hospital, they would actually be able to link that patient to a food product that was contaminated, and then link that back to the production site. So it's very similar to a fingerprint of a factory. So now we have technology where it doesn't have to be within the same year, but after a while, governments even find out 5 years later who was responsible for several outbreaks, and so the stakes rise. And in our industry, we talk a lot about consumer safety, about health, about responsibility, but I think this is sometimes forgotten, it's also about the safety and security of those food businesses. Bacteria will never be eliminated. It's simply something that comes with producing food. And so what we require in the food industry, and we can see this because the testing is increasing, is just to have a good risk management, to know what the risk profiles are and to work with that and not be scared, but to just be responsible. And there was one lady who said this once at a conference: responsibility around food safety is the only thing that you cannot outsource. At the moment, we actually went for a dual kind of strategy. So the main value proposition that I mentioned is that we offer a rapid detection for food producers without laboratory. For larger accounts, however, and this is something we've invested quite a bit in the last months, is our solution can also be integrated into existing laboratory workflows, simply because it is a viability test. So within 24 hours, you know whether you have live bacteria or not. And then you may always still run a PCR test. So this works quite well and is quite interesting for larger accounts as well. We are focusing at the moment, we're really focusing on Europe, on the EU market, while we're looking to expand globally. So also for food producers that are out there, we are always looking for kind of co-development opportunities, or if we are developing a new test, some pilot projects, we're very, very open. And so, yeah, just get in touch. Down here, you can also see we have a growing customer base, especially in Switzerland, where we started the earliest. So I'm not sure where all you guys are sitting, but Yoshi's is a big sushi kind of restaurant chain in Switzerland. And we've had a wonderful collaboration with them. They're using our tests. There's also Balik salmon, which is, I think, the most expensive salmon in the world. They're also using our tests. So we've had very, very great successes here, and our solution, and especially its ease of use, has very much found resonance in those markets. Furthermore, obviously, also a very important point is the team that made all of this possible. We're at the moment, I think we're recruiting another sales manager. We'll be 14 people then, with a big R&D team that does all this amazing development work. And I would say overall, it's a very unique combination of people that come from business and economics, that come from science with chemistry and microbiology backgrounds, but that kind of unite around this shared sense of purpose and inspiration of tackling this very important challenge that we're facing. And yeah, I'm also very open for any Q&A or any questions that you may have.
Thank you, Franzisca. Just for the questions, be 3 seconds. Imran has asked, could you email him the slide deck? He will forward it on to his company microbiologist.
Yes, of course, of course. I'll then double check if you put the email in the, I can't see the chat right now, but then I'll for sure do that.
Problem. And what is the economic impact of your product to your target customer? More specifically, is there a euro amount or percentage of cost that is saved or made when you consider your product's cost, the time saved, litigation costs, reputational risk, or any other factors?
That's a very good question, and it's one that I'd love to answer if we actually had the data. This is something we're collecting quite a bit right now. Quantifying risk is still a big challenge. And so for us, this is part of the reason why having these co-development projects with larger accounts is super important, as they already have some of the data that we can then work with. So it's not something that we have. It's a bit of a challenge in the very nature of what we do. Risk is something very abstract, and quantifying it is a difficult task, but it is something that I'd like to have in the next half year, to have these numbers to also as part of our sales strategy to simply convince more accounts. Yeah.
No problem, thank you. Is anybody any final questions just before we finish off? Nope.
So thank you very much for coming today to our webinar. We are going to continue next year. We will send you the invitation for the following series and webinars that we are going to have. And of course, we are going to provide you some information about the open calls and the calls that we are opening also in the entrepreneurship pillar. That might be of your interest or in your network. Amy, would you like to add something up? You're in silent mode.
Sorry, I was muted. Just thank you to both NEMIS and Delicious Data again, and we'll look forward to welcoming you back to the series next year.